is the second movie of my Ghibli favorites, but not actually in order, because when I checked my Letterboxd list earlier, I'm actually doing it from low to high. Basically, I'm also going to put that Letterboxd list in the description, but obviously I have about 7 Ghibli favorites, and obviously I did an episode on Spirited Away, and obviously Spirited Away is at 7. And it's not to say that, oh, Spirited Away is the worst one. That's just the way that I ordered it. Do you know what I mean? And obviously it's personal preference, of course. I really love, obviously I've spoken about how Hayao Miyazaki is one of my favorite directors, and also I've also done, oh yeah, I spoke about Hayao Miyazaki in my director series as well, which is still, by the way, guys, it's still ongoing. I just haven't gotten around to doing another director. Basically, I also need to check. I think I need to check my YouTube again, and I need to look at my director series again, because I'm unsure actually where I left off. But anyways, if you listen to that episode, yes, I was talking about Hayao Miyazaki and just how I think he's an exceptional director. I love how all of his films feel very exactly, they all feel very mature. Like, it's a type situation where, like, a film will be headlined for children, but the themes in said film will feel mature. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, a lot of Hayao Miyazaki's films, and even when I read his biography, a lot of his films are actually surrounded by him growing up as a child, and around, like, the whole idea of when he was a child, and also how his mother wasn't well, and also there was also ongoing wars at that time when he was a youngster. So a lot of his films are actually like personalized versions of himself, plus also people around him. I like that that's how he works. Like, he makes up characters in his head, but they're kind of like, obviously, he also personifies them as people who are around him. I think that's really interesting. He did that obviously with his most recent Boy and the Heron, and obviously he said that a lot of the characters in that film were obviously a lot of his staff members at Studio Ghibli, basically, which is obviously really great. And I think, anyway, that is how like, a creative should be, like, that term. I know sometimes people aren't fond of that term, but just like that, you obviously create what's around you. And I think it's the type of thing that, like, whether you're a journalist, a painter, an artist, a writer, you're going to take influence by the things that are around you and the things that are happening around you. Because obviously it would be weird if you decided to create and you didn't talk about the issues that affect you. Basically, that would be so weird, because obviously the things that affect you are what you are passionate about and what show up in your work. But anyways, the movie we're going to be discussing today, which obviously, as I said, on the list is basically number 6, which is Kiki's Delivery Service. I want to start off by saying, the first time watching Kiki's Delivery Service, I never understood that film very well. Like, I feel like it's one of Miyazaki's films actually that I'd never actually understood, especially even how also Nausicaa in that list as well was also another one of his films that I never understood either. And I remember I wasn't ever really fond of watching Nausicaa. Like, it was so weird. Every time I put it on, it was like I wasn't necessarily focused. I remember the first time I watched Nausicaa, actually, before carrying on talking about Kiki, but the first time I watched Nausicaa, I was not paying attention at all. Like, and it's crazy because then after watching it a few times, Nausicaa became one of my favorites, basically. It was a bit crazy. Like, I was like, Nausicaa especially, like, as a character, I find, like, she's obviously very special to me, I meant in my heart, because she obviously cared about the animals and she didn't want to kill them. And I think that's very gorgeous, because it's like, you actually have to do that. And I know a lot of us actually, even as humans, like, we obviously, like, that's what I mean, that's what Miyazaki films, a lot of his movies show, that like we harm the earth sometimes and we don't mean to harm the earth, but do you know what I mean, that's what we do. Even in how exactly in Nausicaa, like, it's her protecting the animals because people are afraid of them and so they kill them, and we're like, oh, but that's generally what we do. You know what I mean? That's what we do as of a day to day. And it's like, that's why even like when I think of Nausicaa, like, it makes me exactly change the way that I see insects and animals. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, they are also living organisms with us as well. And it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, sometimes that's why when like a beetle comes on me or like a ladybug, I'm like, let me put that ladybug in the grass. I'm like, go back home to, I don't know, your children, or just go back home in general. I'm like, that's what I mean. But I feel like, exactly, I love insects. And I also, the one thing also about Hayao Miyazaki's films is that obviously he showcases a lot of nature, and I really love nature. I was like, Miyazaki has made me also, exactly, he is the reason why I feel like I am such a why I yearn to be in nature, or I long to be there, and why I think of myself as a tree hugger, which is weird. He wouldn't really use that term, but yeah, a tree hugger. Like, I just like trees, and it's like, bro, I'm like, imagine if trees could speak. Shout out to Lord of the Rings. And we're like, bro, like, the earth is amazing. That is obviously, that is one of also Miyazaki's themes. The earth is amazing. We should always protect our planet. We should protect our planet, the animals, and ourselves. That's the three things, and that's honestly what I love about him. Do you know what I mean? A guy that uses, like, it's so interesting because obviously he uses animation to present these things to us, and we're like to ourselves, could he show that to us in a different medium? Would it also hit the same if it was not in said medium? I just don't even know. I think to myself that it probably wouldn't. Like, the fact of the matter is, I also think, like, with Miyazaki using animation, like I said, and like the fact that it's marketed at children, but even him himself, he says, oh, like, he's like, oh, some children shouldn't be watching these films. And honestly, that's generally why I think. It's even what I think about, like, anime in general. Like, do you know what I mean? Anime in general sometimes has a lot of themes that kids should not be watching either. Do you know what I mean? And that's what the crazy thing is. People try to say the anime and animation is for children, when if you look at it, like, there's so much more deeper things that it's like, we can't be watching those because they don't really make, like, you don't understand the gravity of it. It's like how you think of, like, I don't know, I feel like cartoons, like, they are for children. But the fact of the matter is, exactly, I think for me, and which I think is great about people like Miyazaki, and also like Guillermo Totoro, I think, but I probably didn't pronounce that right. But you know, the guy who made the what do you call it? The Oh, no, sorry. Hold on a second. Obviously, Guillermo del Toro is a very famous director, sorry, guys. And I was going to say something like, I was going to say something really, like, silly. And then I was like, no, that's right. I was going to say Frankenstein, which is yes. And of course, I'm only saying Frankenstein because I saw that he's obviously making that film. But he's obviously done, of course, I meant more stuff that we would know aside from that, like Pan's Labyrinth, for example. And a film also, yes, like Crimson Peak and Hellboy. But again, again, back to my point, is that somebody like him, for example, has also spoke about animation, and I think those kind of directors are great. People who don't like it when like you want to put people into boxes or say that like this person should be watching this and that person should be watching this. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes it's like I even feel myself when I get that kind of feeling. Like it rubs off on me sometimes because I think about the fact that like, oh, if you watch said thing, then maybe your class is immature. But then it's like, no. It's like it's actually fine. Like for me, initially when I started watching even Miyazaki's films, it's like obviously it appealed to my inner child. That's basically what it was. So that's why I watched his film, but then even when I looked at them on a deeper level, I was like, okay, they're animated, but there's a lot going on here. And I think I also, obviously, when I said to you guys about his biography, I was like, there's also a lot going on here because I was like, even reading his biography, which I think is not, it's not his official biography, but someone wrote his wrote kind of a book on him, which was just about his works. I think that's Miyazaki World. And obviously even that book in particular, like it dived in to like his workings of the films and behind the scenes of them. Do you know what I mean? Not like, oh my gosh, he just wanted a film. Like, oh my gosh, so yeah, take Ponyo, for example, which obviously I'm going to do an episode about on its own, yeah. But like Ponyo, for example, which again is in the favorites list as well, like I obviously just thought Ponyo was a type of thing like I thought he took inspiration from like Pinocchio or something like that. Whole thing of, oh, girl turns into human, like, do you know what I mean? Or like the fact that Pinocchio wanted to be a real boy, and then obviously I thought he took inspiration from that. But Ponyo's whole thing is to do with what's it to do with again? Like climate change, right? So her whole like the whole movie of Ponyo is about climate change, and you wouldn't know that unless, you know what I mean? You wouldn't know that unless like I just told you, and you wouldn't know that unless you really like did like research into it. On the surface, this is what I'm saying, and that's what like kids will look at it as that as well. And I think like I even showed that film Ponyo specific to children before, because I think that film in particular is like, I meant the best one in terms of like not like unveiling the deeper meaning. Do you know what I mean? Because honestly, I meant on the surface is basically a girl who's from the sea who wants to be with a boy. It's giving Little Mermaid as well. Do you know what I mean? A story that's already been told before, and it's like it feels very right. It feels very like, exactly. It doesn't feel like it's complex. It feels like, exactly, you can show it to like 2-year-olds. Do you know what I mean? Like you can show it to like 2-year-olds and then they'll look at it and be like, wow, it's pretty, it's glossy. And honestly, that is what Hayau's films show. They're all just like glossy and gorgeous and like, wow. Do you know what I mean? Even sometimes when I watch these films, I'm like, imagine if I had watched them when I was younger. Like that would have been my like peak. Do you know what I mean? It would have been the golden time, the golden era. It's like when you see those videos, people are like, oh, when my kid's straight out of the womb, I'm going to show them, I think, oh yeah, I saw that one the other day about Attack on Titan. They're like, oh, when my child is born, I'm going to show them, I'm going to put them onto Peak. And we're like, honest, like, we're like, what? You're going to put your child onto Attack on Titan? Wrong one though, by the way. For starters, that's the wrong one. But like, I get the sentiment though, because obviously it's like, it's a great anime, and I guess it also like is, yeah, it's life changing. But I just mean, again, that's not one I'd be showing to my child, by the way, because that's crazy work. That anime that anime is traumatizing. So it's a bit too early, right? I think to myself, you could probably show Attack on Titan to your child at about like 10, or something like that. Or but then maybe 10 even feels again. 10 again might be also too early, but then I also feel like 10 is a bit of a like we say 10 because it feels a bit like a golden age, or it feels like, again, actually no, 10 is obviously considered to be a milestone. So that's what you think. You're like, oh, 10 years old, that's generally what should happen. But anyways, I feel like I've been yapping a long time now about like so many different points. Let's dive into Kiki as a movie. So obviously Kiki, right? So obviously this is what I'm saying. When I first watched Kiki, I didn't get the film, honestly. And I'm proud to say that, because honestly, I sometimes think with movies, you do need like a chance to fully get them. Or it's even like, for example, I'll give you guys an example. When I watched Fantastic Mr. Fox the other day, like a rewatch, and I will generally, every time I watch Fantastic Mr. Fox, I never understood the Black Wolf. I never understood it, and I didn't know what it meant. And I think what was funny is that even though I didn't know what it meant, I just ignored it, basically. And I think that it's easy to do that, though, when you're watching a movie. Anyways, you're caught up in said film, so it's kind of like you miss different themes and different meanings. And it's like you have to generally be bothered enough, I think. And even because that's what I mean, even in a scene like that, in Fantastic Mr. Fox, I didn't realize it held so much importance, like, to the story. I know that Wes Anderson, he obviously they said they said they wanted him to remove that scene, but then when I obviously realized what I searched it obviously afterwards, and obviously I was like, oh, so it still holds a lot to the story and is needed for like the Fantastic Mr. Fox's story. We're like, oh, this is why Fantastic Mr. Fox is the way that he is. Do you know what I mean? And he sees this wolf who is, do you know what I mean, who is free and he is not, for example. And this is what I'm saying, because it's like, even with Kiki, like, I was looking at it like, oh my gosh, Kiki's on a broom, she's a witch. I was like, wow, that's generally it. That's all I was getting. I was like, she is a witch, she's on a broom, she's like, I don't know, she's gone away on her own. And that's crazy. That's the thing. I didn't even look at that also. Like, obviously, the whole film, Kiki is revolving around independence. And obviously, even her leaving, do you know what I mean? Sorry. I'm actually just wrapping my head around it now. But so even her leaving is obviously her sign of independence again. So that's key one, right? She goes away, and she goes away with her cat. And obviously it's because she wants to be what is it? Oh yeah, she tries to become an independent witch and gets a job at a delivery service. And obviously, oh yeah, she goes away because she wants to get better at being a witch, basically. That's what I think it was. Even though I thought to myself, I don't know. That's the thing about Kiki. I'm like, couldn't she have stayed at home? But obviously she wanted to go in order to find her feet. Do you know what I mean? So exactly. It says, what is the message of Kiki's delivery service? And it says a major theme of the film is maturity. And after leaving her parents who are supportive of her independence, Kiki has to face problems common to adolescence, such as finding a job, seeking acceptance, and taking care of herself. And at only 13, guys, by the way, just what I mean. And I like, obviously this is what we talk about a lot anyways with Miyazaki, because he likes to make his female herons, he likes to put them in complex situations. Yeah, he doesn't like to make them be the damsel, which is exactly not what we want. He's obviously quite what's the word? Is that forward? Or yeah, like it's giving that he's right wing or kind of situation. Yeah, yeah, he's right wing because he obviously wants to show women being strong and looking after themselves. And that the thing that he always does do as well, which I've always loved, is that exactly he doesn't make his female characters necessarily always end up with the guy, because it's not, do you know what I mean? It's not what he's trying to show, by the way. Do you know what I mean? He's like, because obviously I sometimes feel like, of course, when we see women in media, we're like, she always has to end up with a man, and she always has to somehow, like, I don't know, either cling to that man, or, do you know what I mean? Or then let that man, provide for her type situation. When it's like, you want the woman to be an individual. And I like them so that, again, Kiki's 13, and so he's making this character like go off and be independent. I feel like 13 anyways, actually, when I think about it, because I was like 13, but when I think about it, 13 actually is a good age anyways, because I'm sure, yeah, 13 is like puberty age. I thought it's around like 13, 15 is that peak anyways. It's that window. So obviously it's obviously a perfect time anyways for her to fly the coup. Sorry, fly the nest. So yeah, but then so she flies the nest. And exactly, so then where is it that she moves to? Yeah, moves to the port city of Koriko with her cat, Gigi, and starts a flying chorus service. I like that, anyways, because what would have been so interesting? Because it's always like the black cat, isn't it? It's the black cat stereotype, because obviously all witches are always said to have black cats. Even my favorite book growing up, hold on, guys, hold on, wait. Hold on, guys. Hold on. The Worst Witch. Yes! Sorry. Sorry, I love... Anyways, do you know what I mean? This is what's so great. I'm actually, like, fangirling about witches. And that's what's great about Kiki anyways. We love witches here. Do you know what I mean? The witches, Roald Dahl. What else have we got here? There's just loads of witches stuff, right? I can't think of them right now. Wait, hold on. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. My bad, guys. My bad. So yeah, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And then again, so yeah, back to Worst Witch. I love Worst Witch, right? And then that's what I'm saying to you. Except, do you know what's funny about Worst Witch? Exactly. Her witch isn't even black. It's like, it's grey and black, actually. Yeah. It's grey and black. And hey, I'm not bothered about that. Do you know what I mean? But again, a lot of witches also, like, you know what I mean? A lot of witches, they've got black hair, bro. And I'm like, they actually need to sort that out. Even though Sabrina had blonde. Do you know what I mean? When Sabrina the Teenage Witch was introduced, she had blonde hair. And I feel like she was also like, I want to say the first blonde witch, but it's just like nobody'd really seen a blonde witch before. Like, that's what I'm saying. They always have the prototype of a witch with a black pointy hat, black hair, and like she's green. Exactly. So I think Elphaba, bro. Like, just like that's what they want the ideal witch to look like. Boring, snoring. But then this is what I'm saying. But then even so, like, so Kiki is obviously that too as well. That's what I'm saying. Kiki obviously has black hair and yeah. I was gonna say I was looking at this picture of Kiki and I was like, but yeah, she's got black hair. Do you know what I mean? She's got black hair and a red bow. But her hair actually looks brown to me. Yeah, her hair looks brown to me. Tell me what you think, but her hair looks brown to me. And that's perfectly fine, actually. This is what I mean. I'm not a stickler for this, because that's what I'm saying. I don't think that anyways, that just because there's this initial idea that, that I guess that we have, or like of what a witch should look like, that it should stay that way. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, witches can exactly be subject to change, and so can a lot of things, right? We're like, okay, like, it's the whole thing. Hold on. Obviously, an example I have is the whole idea, because remember, I mentioned Little Mermaid earlier anyways, and so it's like the whole idea of, remember when yes, when people were like, oh, Ariel the mermaid, she's white, and we're like, okay, she's from a book, guys. So like everyone was being a stickler on the fact that like Haley Bailey was playing Ariel, but we were like, a mermaid can be any color, guys. Do you know what I mean? And second of all, mermaids aren't real. And then and that's what we're saying. Witches aren't real either. So this is what we're saying. A witch can look any kind of way. But then they're gonna then like, exactly, you'll pick somebody to be a witch, and they'll be like, oh my god, that doesn't look like what a witch should look like. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Witches don't exist. Or do they? Like, I'm sorry, or do they? But then again, as I said, just for the like the purpose of the argument, they're not real. So it's just like, I find that so strange. And I like Kiki's version of a witch anyways, and I obviously do like the fact that she has her black cat with her, and especially her red bow, actually, because her red bow is something different and something unique, actually. Do you know what I mean? Who has a red bow like Kiki? Nobody. Like, we're going to fact check that, guys. I had to check, guys, because I hate if I spread misinformation. But yeah, so I was because I was thinking of Sabrina, guys, and I was also thinking of, well, of course we know Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and I mean the original one. But then there's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, so I was thinking about her, and I think that's why I got muddled up, because she wears red. So I think there was a bit in my brain where I was like, oh, did Sabrina have a red bow? But no, she just had a red dress. Sabrina, in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which came out in like, I think it was 2023. I believe so. Oh, 2018. My bad. It doesn't feel that long ago that it was out, though, in my defense. But like, exactly. So I was like, but Sabrina, like that version of Sabrina obviously has a black, well, hold on a moment. Okay, sometimes she has a black one, and sometimes she's got like, it's not really a bow though, if you think about it though. It's more of a headband. So that's what I'm saying. Kiki is unique and original. We said, yeah, Kiki's original and unique, and she's great. Like, sorry, like, not too much of my girl, but honestly, that's just what I wanted to prove, and I wanted to prove that Kiki is the first to be a witch with a red bow. And do you know what I mean? I don't know, like, Worst Witch, again, was generally one of my, it wasn't her favorite book growing up, and because I just like the fact that, like, she was a witch who wasn't good at spells, like, you know what I mean? Like, she's a witch, but she's not good at it, and that was great, because I was like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't see that, though, because you have all these witches who are, like, they do amazing spells. They know what to do, how to do it. And then you had the Worst Witch who just kept making mistakes. Even what's the book? Yeah, the blue one. Worst Witch Saves the Day, right? And obviously she does that crazy spell and her hair gets really long and everything's really messy. And then everything's just bad. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, it's chaos. We love it. Do you know what I mean? Even Kiki, right? She obviously goes through so much issues as well. Like, and that's what, anyway, this movie's supposed to promote and show, that she obviously tries to navigate her way, but she does find it very difficult. And it's like, obviously, she also, she wakes up to not, what's it called? Oh, yeah, to her spells not working or whatever. Like, her broom doesn't work. Her cat can't speak. that's basically what it says in the description for at Google anyways. It says obviously that she's striving to find independence, and then she finds independence, and she doesn't and then she has that whole thing where her cat can't speak. And it's like it's somewhat of a, yeah, they use that bit in the movie, excuse me, as a way for it to be a kind of existential crisis. But it's actually like, I like that bit the most anyway, because it's supposed to be the fact that she's growing up, and the fact that like your cat is not supposed to speak. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's the whole thing. The cat's not supposed to speak. It's also interesting that they also did that whole cat speaking thing, because that brings us back to Sabrina the Teenage Witch again, and well, just both Sabrina's in general actually, because of course their cats speak too. So it brings us back to that. But I like that obviously in Miyazaki's telling of a witch and a black cat, like her cat ends up not speaking. But like, I mean, of course, cat speaking. Like, you know those the black cats in those shows, they're so tea. But like every time they would read Sabrina, like they were just so good. But it's like, I just think it's gorgeous that like, yeah, that Gigi stops speaking, and she has to then also come to terms with that as well. And she also then obviously has to what's the word? Then she obviously has to go out and try to sort that out. Like, I swear, like, the whole thing that happens is like her having to save the town, and she then has to like push herself in order to do it, to be honest. So yeah, and it's like, I think also what's beautiful is that, yeah, the message is also like, you can always do it. Do you know what I mean? You have to have perseverance, and you have to keep going, basically. That's what's gorgeous as well. Because it's like, don't give up. You can do it. Another factor in this one, which was also my favorite, was obviously when she meets the painter on the roof. I really enjoyed that. And the fact of the matter is that obviously Kiki was meeting somebody who, like, I guess, yes, who would be around her age somewhat. Or actually, hold on a second. But just like, she met that person, and she just saw, I guess, yeah, that thing was in there because she met, exactly, so Ursula. So, exactly, she lives in a log cabin in the forest and befriends Kiki. Kiki drops a delivery. Ursula is a talented artist who inspires Kiki to find her own purpose and overcome her artist block, which is similar to Kiki's own loss of her witch powers. Exactly. They meet each other, and then they help each other. Do you know what it reminds me of? But sorry to be that person, but it reminds me of like the two Nanas, for example. Do you know what I mean? They both meet each other in times where they're both struggling, and then they help themselves out of that struggle. By the way, the reason why I bring up Nana is because I'm reading the manga. And imagine if in me reading the manga, then by the time Ayazawa sits back down to pick it up, I will be caught up. That would be so crazy. That would be so crazy. I'll love that so much, because obviously, like, exactly, Nana's been unfinished for like ages. And then and then it's like, I'm only on like volume 2, guys. I'm on volume 2. And I'm like, soon, that's crazy. Soon, Ayazawa will be back. And soon, there'll be more to read. Oh my goodness. But sorry, back to my initial point. Anyways, is that exactly, they meet each other at a hard time. Do you know what I mean? Nana was having a hard time. I mean, Nana Saki anyway. Sorry. Well, I have to obviously specify, because you guys are like, both of their names are Nana, so which one are we talking about? But so obviously she was having a hard time with Ren, or just, I mean, no. Yes, when Hachi meets Nana, she is not with Ren anymore. And then obviously when Hachi meets Nana as well, she just comes over from Tokyo after kind of like running away from home just on a whim. Well, like, she generally just runs away from home on a whim, not knowing her plan. And it's generally also like that can again go back to Kiki as well, because Kiki leaves home, not really like she has a goal in mind, but it's not really like she doesn't really have an idea of how to put it into fruition. Basically, she doesn't really know what she's doing. Do you know what I mean? And again, this is what we're talking about. So this is again the whole idea of like adolescence and like figuring it out. And that's what I mean. Or even exactly all three of them, if we say that, all have that in common, basically. So, because that's generally what happens. Because Nana then is in, well, Hachi is in, I don't want to keep saying Nana in it because you get, because then it's like, I'm going to confuse myself while doing that. But so Hachi obviously has to then find a job. And that's obviously also what Kiki does too. Kiki has to find a job as well. And then she ends up in the bakery. But you know what's funny is I feel like she obviously ends up in the bakery too easy in my perspective. Because it's like, it actually is quite more difficult than that. But hey, well, like, it's actually more difficult than that. Do you know what I mean? But hey, they don't want to make adolescence look too bad. They want to make it look like it's also an okay time. Yeah, so back to Ursula. Ursula generally is one of my favorite characters in this film as well. Like, I'm not too bothered about her male, yeah, bro. What's it? I was gonna say her male counterpart, male love interest, but as I said beforehand, I'm telling you, like, Miyazaki doesn't necessarily always push these female characters onto the males. Like, another example of that is Nausicaa again. I spoke about Nausicaa already, but like, Nausicaa meets this guy in that film as well, but it's not even like she sees him again. You know what I mean? She generally sees him one time in the whole entire film, when like she's in like the Soot area, like it's where the Ooms live. I think it's those creatures, but I think. Yeah. So she meets that guy there, but then she doesn't really like see him again type situation. So, and I think, remember, Miyazaki's always main thing as well is about the characters finding human connection, but it's not like on a romantic level. It's basically, sometimes it's romantic, okay, think Hal and Sophie, but not always. Sometimes it is generally just platonic. It's just them meeting somebody on their journey who can help them. They can also help out that person, but it's like, we're not like, it's not what's happening here. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be that way. Do you know what I mean? That is what I love. Like, I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way either. Do you know what I mean? Even like when I think about also Princess Mononoke, it's like, she meets obviously the main character, the guy who's got the thing on him that he's obviously like, I think, well, they called it a possession of some sorts. I think they even use possession in the book, but so he has that thing on him, and then he says obviously that he tells San that she's beautiful, and then basically like, yeah, by the end, it's not really told to us that they're like anything. Do you know what I mean? It's not like presented to us that they're like end game or they go off into the sunset. It does not appear that way. I honestly, Howl's Moving Castle generally feels like the only one where it looks like, like Sophie and Howard generally locked in. Do you know what I mean? But all the rest, I couldn't tell you because it doesn't appear that way. And as I said, Miyazaki always, exactly, he's not really bothered about that. I talk about him like, I love that, because I guess he's one of my favorite directors. I talk about him like I know him. I know his inner workings. I know how he wants to present his characters. But that's because, as I said, because he's my favorite, it's like when you have a favorite director, it's not you just liking them, like, I don't know, if you watch one movie of theirs and then you're like, oh, I like them. It's like, and okay, actually, do you know what it is? It's that I can't like anything normally. That's the thing. And I think a lot of us can also, like, relate to that. Just like, when you like something, you have to like it, like, full throttle. It sounds like an obsession, but let's slow down. But it's just like, you need to, like, love that thing with your entire being, basically. So that's why liking Miyazaki is like not just liking him on the basis and not wanting to know, exactly, not wanting to know anything about him. That's crazy. I'm like, I like him, so I really have to, like, I have to dive into his mind. I have to step into his shoes. I need to find out where he was born, and I need to know about his family life. Basically, I need to know everything about him. Actually, that's the thing. Basically, I need to know everything about him. And it sounds creepy actually in a way, but this is what I'm saying. Like, I think it's good to be that way as a human being though, anyways. Like, that's what I'm saying. You don't want to, like, fall in love with something half-heartedly. You want to fall in love with it whole. Like, do you know what I mean? You want to consume that thing, not just like it. Liking, you know what I mean? Like is so boring. No, you love it. This is what I'm saying. And that's why, like, even you guys will realize when I'm talking about these favorites to come, it's like, it's not just liking them, it's loving them. It's like seeing yourself within these characters, and like so much that, you know what I mean? So much that you connect to them, and you obviously, like, these films anyways are my favorites. Exactly, they're ones that I generally rewatch like it's the Bible. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't play about these films, guys. Even for example, on the list again, Arrietty. I used to watch Arrietty. I think, like, I used to watch Arrietty like on the last day of the year. Yeah, it was so weird. I used to actually, guys, it's not weird. I used to make it a tradition, but I used to obviously watch it on the last day as a way to say I'm going into the new year watching this film. I don't know why, and it's also like, I don't know why I kept rewatching it when, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'd already seen it. But it's like, I guess it's the feeling of when you rewatch something and it never gets old, so you just keep putting it on. And then also because you love said thing so much, it's like, yeah, you want to take it take it into the new year with you, even though you're going to anyway. But that's not the point. Yeah, that's generally not the point. It's just like, and I think also with Arrietty as well, guys, is like, which I obviously will dive into more, but like Arrietty is one of those that, again, when I mentioned about the whole nature thing, and Arrietty, obviously, bro, Arrietty, like, nature is surrounded by Arrietty. Like, that is what Arrietty is. Like, when I think of Arrietty, and it's interesting to mention this thing, right? Color palette, right? And directors love to use color palettes, right? They like to have set colors. Do you know what I mean? When you think of Wes Anderson, you think yellow. But then sometimes he obviously likes to do many different mediums, because he likes to do, I don't know, black and white, for example, which he used in French Dispatch. And also he likes to also then mix colors as well. But Miyazaki likes that too. Even when I think about Howl's Moving Castle, actually, like even Howl's Moving Castle doesn't feel like it has a set color in it either, actually, because there's so many different colors used, sorry, because even when I think about like Hal's room, there was so many colors in there. So that's why I'm saying to you, it's actually with Howden Castle, it's all over the place. But at least you can say with Ariete, it's generally green. His color palette for that film is green, and I feel like that's how I know why it's on this list for me anyways, because obviously I really connect with the color green, again, with being somebody who's into nature. And exactly, not even into it, again, like how I told you guys about loving things, not just into it, but like absorbed into it. Like, hello, this is why I class myself as a yearner. Like, do you know what I mean? And bro, yearning's not easy. And I hate when people try to act like they're yearners, but like you don't yearn like how I yearn. Do you know what I mean? And it actually gets on my nerves, because I'm just like, you guys don't know what it means to yearn. Like, you don't know. Like, when I say I'm touching grass, I'm touching it. But I mean, I'm actually like absorbing all of it. That's what I mean. I'm absorbing all of it. But yeah, as I was saying about Ursula anyways again, is that and I think, oh yes, I connected to Ursula as well, obviously because she paints, and I like the arts. So it was like to see her be in a log cabin. I was like, bro, actually I envisioned it like, oh my gosh, this is my dream life, really. I was like, wow, I too want to paint on top of a roof in the house that I live. Do you know what I mean? I was like, wow. I was like, and she seemed to be doing all right. And I guess also, yeah, she was helping Kiki come out of her block in it. So obviously it says she lives in a log cabin in the middle of the forest. She was once a young artist herself and experienced a creative block when her work became imitations, and she helps Kiki understand that both artistic and magical powers need to be nurtured and cannot be forced. 100%. Also, another thing is the idea of blocks anyways. Like, don't be afraid of them, you know? Like, I know that a lot of us are. Like, when a block comes, I get so frustrated and I can't get out of it, but I wait for it to ride over. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's the best thing to possibly do, because if you're in a rut, what else can you do? You know, either you find a way to get out, or you just wait it out. It's the whole thing of how I even sometimes think about like, well, feeling sad thoughts, feeling happy thoughts. Like, you need to feel them both. And you need to feel them deeply. You know what I mean? You can't, again, you guys are like, again, why is it that like all these things, it's like I probably obsess over all these things, but it's like you generally can't just think these things on a whim, and you can't silence them. You have to let them out. We're not turning this into like, you know what I mean, like an advice thing. But yeah. And so obviously, so she meets, Ursula meets Kiki after Kiki accidentally drops a stuffed cat on a delivery. She takes Kiki to her cabin to give her a break and a fresh perspective. She shares her own struggles as an artist, helping Kiki realize she was working too hard to find her magic instead of letting it flow naturally. And Ursula works on a painting that Kiki inspired, showing Kiki that beauty and new perspectives can come from unexpected places. And you see what I mean? And also, in the last thing is that the last thing is that exactly can come from unexpected places and new perspectives. And I think like Kiki meeting Ursula, that's again what I said about them both helping one another and both of them coming out the other side changed. That's what I'm saying. And again, that's why I brought up the two nanas, okay? I said, don't hate me. It fitted with the argument, okay? You guys are probably like, why are you making me think about Nana? And I hear you. That show that whole story is traumatic, but it just makes sense. I think my last now final points is like I really enjoy Miyazaki's way of how I was talking about to do with human connection. He always shows kindness, and even when there's something like really, really bad happening in said film, it's still a thing where like kindness is always shown. It's giving like, oh, sorry, like what I just thought of is thinking like Harry Potter, like, what is it? Help's always given to those who ask or whatever. I'm sure that's the quote. If it's not, like, I mean, you can correct me, but it's like, it's something like that. And I think that is also what he shows, basically. It's like, exactly, like Spirited Away, again, obviously, yeah, I spoke about Spirited Away just previous this one, is that like, obviously, she finds herself in a whole new world, and even in that whole new world, and she's hit with loads of different obstacles, she still like meets people who are able to help her, especially like obviously when she gets put with the maid with the one who works inside the bathhouse, and then she also meets the guy with the like, has he got like 8 arms? Yeah, the guy who obviously does the water in the bathhouse. So it's even examples like that. She didn't expect for that to happen. And then you can obviously also say Haru as well, of course, but I think with Haru, actually, he was always going to help her, to be honest. I don't know why, but I just mean Haru was, because he was obviously he was kind of like, yeah, he was locked up and chained, and it was kind of giving like he was he was in slavery, basically, because obviously he was just Yubaba's pet. Do you know what I mean? He didn't really have a life type situation. So him obviously befriending Chihiro was not crazy, but the fact of the matter is because she also had other people who helped her out along her way. Even especially a character like No Face, who obviously you wouldn't have expected to help her, but like all No Face wanted was connection, because he was lonely. Do you know what I mean? And also because I think No Face's character is about what's it called? It's about judging a person's character or appearance, because obviously No Face what's it called? He looks on the surface quite scary, but that's why he's like really lonely and isolated. And that's why obviously in Spirited Away, exactly, all he was looking for was a home. And then he gets that. Do you know what I mean? Because he ends up at Yubaba's sister's house. And do you know what I mean? And that's all he really wanted. So that's like the whole thing again. I think, okay, I'm gonna obviously just talk about Tombo for a bit, and then I'm gonna close. So then obviously Tombo is a 13/13-year-old aviation fanatic who becomes fascinated by Kiki and her ability to fly, and at first Kiki brushes him off as a clown, but in time the two become good friends. And you see, hold on, this is nice. Do Kiki and Tombo get together? This is a question on Google. Miyazaki added, I don't really think Tombo and Kiki have to be romantically involved at all. I do think, however, they will become good friends. When describing his scene with Kiki on his flying bicycle, in this world, flying isn't so bizarre, so flying bikes don't seem far-fetched at all. See, and then, so it says, and then does Kiki love Tombo? The one exception is Tombo, Kiki's not actually love interest, who is a mirror of Kiki's positivity and kindness. The climax of the film centers not on Kiki learning how to be a great witch, but on deciding to be a witch. In other words, to be herself, despite the fact that she's really bad at it. You see? And that's what I was talking about the worst witch as well, guys. I was talking about the fact of, like, being bad at something, but continuing to do it. And you know what I mean? There's courage in that. There's bravery. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, if you are doing that, congrats to you, right? Okay, but one thing I will say, actually, one thing I do like about Tombo is the fact that he didn't isolate Kiki. Like, I remember, yeah, like, she obviously came into the town and she didn't have any friends. And then he obviously had all these friends because Tombo was obviously like, I feel like, yeah, he was popular semi-what, but he had all these great friends. And then Kiki was by herself, but they all thought she was weird because obviously she was wearing black and she had her broom. So they just saw her as this weird witch girl. But he obviously wanted to be friends with her. And I always thought that was quite yeah, endearing. And that's again obviously what I just explained about the whole kindness thing. And that's obviously what Tombo stands for. So that's why he's able to like, start a friendship with her and also want to bring her into his circle. Okay, last and final thing, because to be honest, I ran out of things to say, is that I'm going to look at Letterboxd reviews. This is my broken humor, okay? But I really like this review, okay? This review is by Gabby, and it says, Tombo be like, Kiki, do you love me? Are you riding? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. But I feel like exactly that's what I love about Letterboxd reviews. They're so random, they're so out there. And I also feel like exactly, again, they're just out there and you'd never expect when you come across a review, you never expect for it to be what it is. It's actually so hilarious. And it's funny because obviously we know Tombo likes bikes. Sorry, I'm still thinking about it. Okay, so this is another review that I really like. Obviously, I'm choosing my favorite reviews, actually. You guys can obviously find some on Letterboxd. This is by Maria. How can I decide with whom I relate to the most in this movie? The young witch who talks to her black cat and always wears black, the black cat who's always a mood, or the girl who lives in the woods by herself and draws birds. honestly, as I said before, I don't feel like I really connected to like Kiki, like, you know what I mean? Or kind of, like, I guess I think what I just read a second ago was about the fact that some of the themes obviously also try to hint at autism, and they try to like explain when Kiki's frustrated with doing the deliveries. That's a bit like what it's like to have autism. So obviously I didn't know that before, but I think like, yeah, that would be something, but I didn't look at that before. But then obviously I do feel like I know that I connected to the most with Ursula just because, yeah, she draws birds and she's a painter. But yeah, after that is the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening. The next one in the in this whole lineup of Ghibli favorites is the next film is My Neighbor Totoro, which is really great, actually. I'm excited to talk about that one. But thank you for listening, and see you in the next one.